Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Rolex. So for anyone that didn't see my jewelry unboxing video, I found this Rolex um, in the Goodwill box. And so I've done a lot of research on trying to figure out, okay, is this a real Rolex or is it a fake Rolex? So I'm just going to go through some of that with you guys today. If you do ever come across a Rolex in a Goodwill uh, box, here's some of the things that you should be looking for to determine if it is a real Rolex. Now I am going to attempt to do this with my loupe, but I don't know. I don't know how well this is going to work. So it may just end up being, you know, things to look for. So first and foremost, it's a gorgeous looking watch. This is called the Submariner in Bluesy. And there are very distinct things that Rolex does with their watches that you should look for when trying to confirm whether or not it is a real Rolex. I am going to attempt to move my lights just a little bit so that I'm not getting that super flash on there. And that, I think that flash is coming. Hold on one second. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, so there are multiple things that you can look for on a Rolex. So I believe that the Rolexes after around 2004 in the sapphire, this is like a sapphire glass, they would have a little crown at the bottom here that is very hard to see. So when I went in and I looked at it, let me see if I can get it. See that crown there, guys? See the crown? And it is stippled. I'm going to adjust the lights just a little bit more. Hold one second. Let's see if that helps. So you can see, and it's very hard to see that little crown. There it is. See that, guys? That is a stippled crown that is on all Rolexes after around 2004. So that's something that you can look for on the newer Rolexes to see if it has that stippled into the, it's like a sapphire type glass. So that's one thing that you can look for. The second thing that you can look for, see on the inside here, there's a crown and then it says Rolex, Rolex. Can I get it to go? Anyway, it goes all the way around. There we go. Now, another thing that you want to look for then is between the 12 and the 6 marks, you want to look to make sure that that Rolex is lined up. So the R and the X should be lined up on the tick marks. So let me see if I have, I don't know how to do this, guys. I don't know how to do this. So it starts with the crown on the 12, and then you have the R, the O, the L, the E, and the X. Well, that R, O, L, E, and X needs to be lined up on the tick marks on the watch. So see, these little tick marks here, it needs to be lined up on those. So when we looked at it, we could see that the R and the X was lined up centered. It has to be centered on those tick marks. And it's kind of hard to see in here, especially because I don't have the loop. But you want to make sure that the R and the X are lined up on those little tick marks, and they have to be centered. So it's something that you can look at. It's not something I can really show you on this video. My camera is not that great, but that's another way to tell if the R and the X are from the noon to the 6. If the R and the X are aligned on the tick marks and they are centered, that's another way to tell if it's a real Rolex. And these ones do actually line up on this Rolex, on this watch. So we have the crown that we looked at. We have the tick marks. Now the next thing that you can look at, let me see if I can get it to, and you're not going to be able to see it, but at the very bottom here, it says Swiss made. There it is. Swiss made. You can almost see the crown there too. So the Swiss made needs to be lined up on that center tick mark. So if you look right here at the number 6, there's a tick mark there, and they should be centered evenly on either side of that tick mark, which this one does. Now it's different if you have another Rolex to compare this to. Obviously, my husband and I cannot afford Rolexes, and so therefore we're going off of all of the YouTube videos that we got to see. The sound that it makes when it turns is another item, but I didn't have another Rolex to compare it to. On the side here is a little, so this is the dial. Now Rolex puts a blue, you can see like the little remnants of it right inside the crown there. But they put a little blue protective coating over this to keep it protected, and you can take it off with tape. We did have the blue protective coating on there, and my husband was able to take it off with the tape. So that was another thing that they do with Rolex. It's very precise, very well laid in. The band, I tested this piece of it. You can see right there. I tested it for gold. And it was coming up as gold. Here is the inside of the watch. Now, from what we could tell on this watch, this is I think a 2004. And this actually says PJ3. Now there is also, my husband found he also found the marking for the oh, there it is. So if you look right here, there is a serial number. See that serial number? Begins F437091. Now, those numbers are very specific to the watch. The F means something, and then so each one of the numbers, the next four numbers is a code, and then there's a code for if it's 18 karat gold, it'll say like a 3 or something. And I don't have that information. You can look that information up online. But that is another thing. You can go and look up the serial number on the Rolex, and you can get some information. Another thing to look for on a Rolex is the weight of the Rolex. So from what I understood, and I don't have my scale with me, but another thing that we looked at was the Rolex is so precise that it's going to weigh a certain amount. So if you have a Rolex, if you weigh this and it's more or less than 15% from 255 grams, then it's not going to be a real Rolex. Our Rolex weighed 253.4 grams, I think it was. And because you can have that 10 to 15%, that 15% difference from the 255, that was just one more thing that benefited us on ensuring that this was a real Rolex. Another thing that you can look at is this little piece right here. So the number 3 that is in here, there are videos online, but there's a number 3 that is found to be wrong on fake Rolexes. So looking up the number 3 is also good. The next thing that you want to look at is to see if this bezel, this little piece up here, how high up it is off of the Rolex, because it should be almost flat. And this one does seem to look a little bit high. Again, it was very hard to find the videos that This did test as 18 karat gold with the key gold tester. So we decided to take this to an official Rolex person that works on Rolexes to see if it was or was not a real Rolex. And we found out that this was not a real Rolex. This is actually called a super clone. Now, the super clones are practically, precision-wise, almost the same as a Rolex. This is a very well-made fake Rolex watch, which is why it's called a super clone. The Submariner with that code, that F459, whatever it was, is probably one of the most cloned Rolexes in the world. So right off the bat, that should have been our number one, but just by looking at that code, we could have maybe guessed that it wasn't. So when the person went in and looked at the Rolex, they went in specifically, and I can't tell you because I didn't get the opportunity to go, but they looked at the gold. Now, on a real Rolex, this is going to be solid gold, but what they could tell was that the gold on this was not all the way through. And so it is a fake. It is fake. That's how they determined, because the gold plating was coming off of the band. And I would have to go in and look up exactly where they looked to see that. But it wasn't gold all the way through. With a real Rolex, that would have been the 18 karat gold. So this is a plated, 18 karat gold plated Rolex. It is in working order. And so the next question is, well, what are you going to do with it, Lisa? So these Rolexes, the Submariner Bluesy super clones, go from anywhere from $680 to about $1,000. We are not going to sell this for a couple different reasons. The first reason was it is a fake Rolex. And so we did not want to perpetuate the fake Rolexes out there. So we will not be selling this. My husband is gonna get it lubed up inside, and he will go ahead and wear it. And I think the sad part for me is, for the amount of precision and time it takes these people to clone the Rolexes, they could be making their own watches that are amazing, that I wouldn't say would be in competition. If this was a real Rolex, this would be worth about $13,000. So for my Goodwill box, I do have some sterling and some gold to test. This is, I mean, I could get my money back. I could sell this and get my money back on the Goodwill blue box, but unfortunately, we do not want to perpetuate the fake Rolexes. So it was a lot of fun going in and finding it in a Goodwill blue box, or a Goodwill box, and it was very interesting to go in and look at some of the things that you can look at on a Rolex to know if it's fake or not. But ultimately, I think my husband's just going to fix it up and make sure that it's running correctly, and yeah. He's just going to enjoy it because we can't afford a real Rolex, and go from there. So I hope that you like this video. I'm sorry my camera is very limited. So trying to show you guys, there are great videos out there, but for my viewer base that probably isn't going to go out there and look up how do you tell if it's a real Rolex or a fake Rolex or a super clone Rolex. Those are some of the things that you can look at. Ultimately, the recommendation is always to take your watch to a certified Rolex person and let them take a look at it. And that's exactly what we did. It did cost us a little bit of money, but it was worth it to know the truth. And yeah. So thank you for watching this video, guys. There will be more to come. Hopefully one day we will find that real Rolex in the Goodwill box. But until then, I am going to sign off and say thank you for watching. It's always appreciated. I hope you learned something. We certainly did. And have a great day. Bye, guys.